Welcome to the show. Welcome to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, where we're with you live each and every weekday from 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. We're all everywhere you want to be. We're also streaming live video on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and we'd love to hear from you during the show. You can do that by finding us on any one of our social media sites and just filling out the comments section, and we'll see it here in the studio and try to bring you into the show. I'm your host, Nick Geber. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Geber, which is unsurprising because that is my name, and I like to try to keep things as simple as possible. What I'm not going to keep simple, though, are the number of free picks we're going to give you today. We have a boatload of them. Joining me up after the break, Chip Chirimbes. We're going to talk some NHL Rapid Fire. We're going to talk Knights at Lightning, Ducks at Senators, Hurricane at Blues, Blackhawks at the Wild, and Sharks at Flames. And then Craig Trapp, El Guapo, will join me. We'll talk some NBA for NBA Tuesday, Bucks at Pelicans, Hornets at Rockets, Blazers at Nuggets, and the Spurs at the Lakers. And then we'll top it all off when the Duff Man cometh. That's right, Joe Duffy will be here. We're going to talk some college basketball Tuesday for you. Duke at Boston College, Rutgers at Maryland, Penn State at Michigan State, Mississippi State at University of Kentucky. This, obviously, is the show for Tuesday, February the 4th. Happy Rosa Parks Day, everybody. And we're going to celebrate with free picks for you to give you your sports betting Jones and hopefully a few extra bucks in your pocket. Now, look, during the show, I will be talking about all the free picks we have at our site. Of course, we have expert picks as well. And I'm going to tell you now, and I'm going to tell you often, we have a very special offer for you with the Super Bowl behind us. 15% off everything you might put in your basket at picksandparlays.net. Use code HOOP15, as in basketball hoop, HOOP15, HOOP15 for 15% off. Don't be a cheap bastard, you know it. Head over there, get that discount right now, and kick your sports betting up a notch or two with our expert picks. All right, I am going to gather my notes, gather my thoughts, see if I can corral some of these handicappers, get them here on the show. Be right back after this. Welcome back to the show, Picks and Parlays. I'm your host, Nick Geber. Great to be with you. Twitter me, twatter me, reach out and flatter me at Nick Geber. Love to hear from you. Come on, let's kick it up a notch. Lots of free picks to get to today. We're going to start off with some NHL Rapid Fire, and I'm still trying to find my notes on this one because I think I'm missing one game here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now I have everything. Well, let's bring on our star handicapper of the moment, my good friend, Chip Chirimbes. Chip, I see you're not coming in the studio today. You must be having trouble with the Model T again.
No, not exactly that, but we have a lot of work to do here. We have a lot of things to cover, including the NHL. Now that football season's over, we're going to concentrate heavily onto the NBA and NCAA basketball. And, of course, we're now putting on the skates, Nick. And I just love it because as a former high school hockey player, believe it or not, I kind of love this stuff.
Really? I didn't know they had hockey back then, Chip. What's
well, they did
like
actually.
when
we
you
had
skate from
we had
one
wooden
cave
blades
to the other and avoid the saber-toothed tiger?
We had wooden blades, and there were no nets, so we used to just get a bush or a flower pot and put it on one side.
And Lord Stanley himself was there to give you the cup.
Well, I don't know. At the time when I was actually playing, there were only 2 teams that were in America, and rather 2 teams in Canada and 4 teams in America. And we've come a long way since then, 1967.
Nonsense, Chip. Back then it was all British. Okay, America and Canada. Let's not forget. All right, let's get to it, shall we? NHL Rapid Fire. Let's start with the Las Vegas Golden Knights, 27-20 at the Tampa Bay Lightning, 32-5. The Knights on a 2-game win streak. The Lightning on a 3-game win streak. This is game 1, though, of a 2-game series for the Knights. They're 3-1-0 all-time Vegas versus the Lightning. So Vegas doing quite well against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, though, 6-0 straight up in the last 6 games at home. That's perfect. And they are 1.5 goal per Tampa Bay minus 1.5. Total goals 6.5. So what's the puck line?
What you mean the total, the 6.5?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be as concerned about that as I am of the fact that I think this Las Vegas Golden Knight team, Nick, is not quite the same team we saw dash into the NHL 2 seasons ago. Last year it was like the sophomore jinx, and now they've sort of leveled out. And fair to Midland, they're above the Mendoza line, that's for sure. But as a dog, they've won 8, and on the money line, they've won 8 of the last 31. So they're 8-23 as a dog on the road. I would play the money line here. I don't lay goals in hockey at all. I don't like getting caught in any manner, shape, or form. I look to just win the game. And I would take Tampa here. They're 22-6 against the Pacific and 46-19 straight up at home in the last 65 games. So as a favorite, 74-33. The Lightning have been the premier team in the league the last couple of seasons, but just didn't get the cup. I think they're going to handle Vegas here at home.
What is the puck line now for the Lightning?
I don't know. I would just, like I said, you said it was 1.5.
No, that's the goals. What's the money line for the Lightning?
I'd say it's at least 2-1, $1.80.
Minus $1.80 or plus $1.80?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Minus $1.80 to win the game.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. You got to speak English to me, Chirimbes. Come on. I mean,
you speak.
And
the
I don't
King's
mean
English.
Anglo-Saxon or oldie English.
Well, see, there you go. You're speaking European English. Go ahead.
All right. Next up, Ducks at Senators. The Ducks 21-26 at the Senators are 18-24. 4-6 in the last 10, coming off a 3-1 win over the Kings. We're talking about the Ducks now. They're 9-16-2 straight up, 14-3 against the spread on the road. And the Senators, 2-8 in the last 10. They're on a 2-game losing streak. 12-9-5 at home. They're 14-12 against the spread. They've gone over in the last 5, and they are just have them as 1.5-point favorites at home here. 6 goals total. You're going to take the money line on this. I'm assuming you're taking the Senators, right?
I would. I'll tell you why. It isn't that they're so great. They've only won 1 of the last 9 home games, Nick. So that's a very heavy number. That's a very strong number. I think it should be smaller. Not so pricey. Anaheim is 21-26. They have a better record, but Anaheim's 3-13 straight up as an underdog on the road in their last 16. So, and they're 3-15 after a straight up win, which is kind of big to me because some of these guys they take a deep breath and we won a game last night, so they don't feel the same intensity the following evening. Ottawa is 5-1 at home against this club on the money line, and I'd play that, though I don't think this is a game of choice, Nick. These are not the best of NHL teams.
All right, let's move along, shall we?
Sure.
The Chicago Blackhawks versus the Minnesota Wild. The Blackhawks 25-21-6. They're 7-3 in the last 10. 13-9-3 straight up. 18-17 against the spread on the road. They've gone over in 7 of the last 10 on the road when playing the Wild, and the Wild are 23-22-6. Another kind of average team here. 4-6 in the last 10, coming off a 6-1 thumping by Boston Bruins. 14-7-4 straight up, 11-14 against the spread at home. Wild are, home favorites here. It's pretty much always the case. They think it's going to be 6 goals, which seems to be the standard line these days. What are you taking on this? You're taking money line. You're going to take the home team or the visitors?
I've done very well on and against this Minnesota team. Sometimes they've come home and they've lost 3-4 in a row and they've responded and they've won. But, I have a sentimental feeling about this Chicago Blackhawk team. The very first hockey game I ever saw at Madison Square Garden, they won 1-0 on a slap shot winner by Bob Hull. You may remember
Bobby Hull, of course.
But anyway, of course. So
Father
was,
of Brett Hull. And I don't know if many people even remember Brett Hull.
That was his son. This was back in 1964,
of course,
I think it was. And
no face masks back then. No helmets.
Yeah,
no helmets.
No, really. And none of these guys had teeth at all. And they had the goalies. I don't know how they did it. And in Jacques Plante, when they allowed people to start wearing the face mask, they weren't even wearing it then. The face mask in the goal. But Minnesota's 6-15 against the Central. I'm not a Minnesota fan here. I think Chicago's played to a 7-1 as an underdog last 8 times out. I'm going to take the Blackhawks here, and I just love their jerseys and those uniforms.
Yeah.
That's another reason I love them.
Fantastic stuff. All right, 2 games, not much time, so let's make it quick. The
Go ahead.
Hurricanes at the Blues. The Hurricanes 19-3. They're 6-4 in the last 10. They just had a 4-3 winner over the Canucks. They are 12-10-2 straight up on the road. The Blues 5-5 in the last 10. They're on a 2-game losing streak. 17-4-4 straight up at home, though. Really good record. They are favorites at home with 5.5 total goals. You're going to take the Blues on this one, right? I would think.
I would. I think I'm inclined to. You know, last year when we took the break around Christmas time.
By the way, Chip. Speaking of Brett Hull, there we go.
Yeah.
St. Louis Blues legend, right?
There you go. There you go. Well, you know, like I was saying, they were in last place. They come up and win the cup last year, and they're still playing great hockey. And they're 4-1 in the last 5 meetings against Carolina, who's an excellent ball club. I mean, ball club. Listen to me. But they're 2-5 in their last. I have a tendency. I'd take St. Louis here. I really would. And like I said, I'd be laying the money line and not the pucks. So I think that's a huge advantage, particularly if you get into the shootout and any type of overtime situation in the NHL.
All right, one last game and very quickly. It's not a ball club, it's a puck posse. Okay, next
really,
up, the San Jose Sharks at the Calgary Flames. The Sharks 22-27-4. They're 8-7 in the last 10. They're on a 2-game loser. The Flames 6-4 in the last 10, coming off a 8-3 thumping by the Oilers. Let's see who you're going to take on this one, home or away.
I'm looking for Calgary's for the Flames to light the place up. Look for them to melt some ice. You know, the San Jose Shark team is 9-23 in their last 32 on the road. And like you said, Calgary coming off that loss, coming home, only 3-7 in their last 10 at home. I'll take them here anyway, coming off those, see them atone for their recent losses on the road.
All right, Chip Chirimbes, always a pleasure. How are we doing on the site? How's your record?
As far as what's concerned?
I don't know.
Well, football season's over, and I guess thankfully I split on Super Bowl Sunday. I had the Niners and the under, and the under was pretty much there. We had discussed that during the week. And the NBA and NCAA right now, Megabucks were on a great run, went 3-5 in the last 8 days, Nick. That's nothing to brag home about. And you just can't win every single day, but I'm sure looking forward to the rest of the season.
Chip Chirimbes, always a pleasure. You can find Chip on our website, picksandparlays.net. Go there, buy his expert picks right now. You would be doing yourself a huge favor. 15% off. We're going to throw that in for you. Use promo code HOOP15. All right, when I come back, Craig Trapp and I will give you a little NBA Tuesday action. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you, Nick.
Welcome back to the show, Picks and Parlays, here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, also iHeartRadio. Tune in. We're live on both of those platforms as well. And you can see us in all of our glory as we stream live video on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you miss any of the show, don't worry. Podcast available right as soon as we finish at the Believe Podcast Network, BLEAV, or at our website, picksandparlays.net. All right, well, we did some great NHL last segment. Let's get to some NBA. Let's bring in my good friend and the number one guy around here, El Guapo himself, Craig Trapp. Craig, how are you today?
A little Super Bowl hangover on Monday, of course, but now it's Tuesday. It's time to start building that bankroll for huge March Madness, just 5 weeks away.
All right, well, March Madness would be college. Let's talk a little pro. And just to keep it in line with Chip, let's call it pro puck, shall we? So we can get the sport right. Never mind. All right. I got you on that one. All right, let's start, shall we? NBA action it is. Let's start with Portland Trail Blazers at the Denver Nuggets. The Trailblazers 23-27. They're 20-28-2 against the spread. They're 7-3 in the last 10. They're on a 4-game winner right now with wins against the Pacers, Rockets, Lakers, and the Jazz. 10-16 straight up, 11-15 against the spread on the road. Now total has gone over in 7 of the last 8. And the Nuggets 34-16. 23-24-3 against the spread. They're 6-4 in the last 10, coming off a 5-point loss to Detroit. 19-6 though, straight up. 11-12-2 at home. That's against the spread, of course. Jamal Murray has been upgraded to iffy, but Michael Porter is out. So if you've been upgraded to iffy, that's an improvement. They've gone over in 9 of the last 13 against the Trailblazers, and Denver are 4.5-point home favorites with a total pointage of 223.5. All right, Trap, how are we going to make money on this to build our bankroll?
Well, I think this line's right where it should be. I think Denver is clearly at home in that Mile High Air, very tough team to beat. But these injuries continue to haunt this Denver team. Before these injuries, I thought Denver was one of the teams to beat in the West. Since then, I just don't know. Without Murray, they really they just don't have enough outside shooting, I think. And the Joker has been very good when he's healthy, but he's even been banged up. So I think you have to continue to ride Portland. When Lillard is on fire like he has been in this run, basically, at the Lakers and at the Jazz, he was out of his mind. I think you have to ride the Blazers here. I think I'm going to take a money line here. I don't even think I take the points because I think if they win, I think if the Blazers cover, they actually win outright. So
nice.
Let's take the Portland Trailblazers. I see it at plus 150.
Ooh.
I think the Portland Trailblazers get this outright win.
Sprinkle a little money line goodness.
Not sprinkle, all in.
All in.
On the money line. I wouldn't even take
all right,
this.
all in. Push it all in, right?
Yeah.
Everything. Last cent in the bankroll.
I either think Denver wins and covers,
right,
or Portland wins outright. So
right,
I wouldn't mess around with the spread on this one. Let's take big underdog.
Let's do it. Next one up. Any underdogs here you want to take? The Hornets at the Rockets. The Hornets.
Not the Hornets. I'll tell you that.
16. Are you sure?
Yes.
16-33. 23-24-2 against the spread. And with a 1-9 in the last 10 record, I think it's a really good bet. Their sole win against the Knickerbockers, 8-18 straight up on the road. They're 12-13-1 against the spread on the road as well. They've gone over in 15 out of the 26. 15 out of 26 have gone over on the road. And the Rockets, they're 5-5 in the last 10. They're on a 2-game winner coming off a win against the Pelicans. 17-7 straight up at home. A far better record, I might add, than the Hornets away record. They're 12-12 against the spread at home. Although Westbrook and Capella are both out for this game, they've gone under in 13 of the last 24 at home. So I didn't get a total on this, but the Rockets, massive home favorites at 14 points.
I don't see a total listed as of yet. I expect it to be in the high 220s because that's every Houston total, sometimes even in the 230s. But I think you have to lay the points with Houston Rockets. This Houston team beat a very hot and playing well New Orleans Pelicans team. I think this Pelicans team is actually headed for that 8th or 7th or 8th spot in the playoffs. So beating a team that was hot with a banged-up Houston Rockets team, I think that speaks a lot. There is one little worry here. The rumors have started to sneak out that before the trade deadline, they're going to try to get some wing help, and the player that they're shopping around is Clint Capella. So being out tonight, I guess, is maybe not a bad thing for.
Well, you wonder,
Houston.
is he really injured?
Right,
or
it
are
might
they
just be
trying to put him on ice.
Right, just make sure he doesn't get injured so they can trade him. And it sounds like they're trying to get him out of the West so they don't have to play some of the playoffs to one of the Eastern Conference teams. A lot of people whispering that maybe the Celtics are one of those teams. Either way, I think you have to take Houston Rockets minus 14. I mean, listen, Charlotte, they lost by 24 to the Spurs. The Spurs are not nearly as good this year. They lost to 14 at Washington. Those are both on the road. I mean, this Houston Rockets team, even without Westbrook and Capella, are way better. So let's lay the big number here. Houston Rockets minus 14.
All right, next up, the Bucks. Speaking of the Pelicans, going to New Orleans to play those Pelicans.
Yeah.
One team. Well, Pelicans aren't as hot as they were, but let's get to it. The Bucks, they are hot. They're 9-1 in the last 10, red hot. They put their loss to Denver behind them with a 102-108 win over the Suns. They're 19. Listen to this: 19-4 straight up on the road. Craig, on the road, 13-10 against the spread. That's crazy. George Hill is out with a hammy. They're 10-1 straight up in the last 11, and for the Pelicans, 20-30, 26-23-1 against the spread. They're 6-4 in the last 10. They lost their loss to the Rockets, snapped a little 3-game winner they were on. They're 10-15 straight up, 14-11 against the spread at home, not nearly as good. They've gone over in 13 of the last 16, and that is why the Milwaukee Bucks, who are red hot, are 6-point home favorites and a healthy total at 245.
Big total, but these Pelicans games seem to fly over. But since Zion has kind of got back and got in shape where he's less of a minute restriction, I still think they're going to watch him and keep him probably on a minutes restriction, probably until after the All-Star break. But I like this Pelicans team getting 6 points here. I just think, if you look at this New Orleans team, they lost at Houston, but before that they had won 3 in a row and covered in all those games.
Mm-hmm.
A pretty good Memphis team they beat, bad Cleveland team, but beat the Celtics. So, the Celtics are really good. I just think, yes, the Celtics were banged up in that one. I know there's several players sit out, but still, the Pelicans had to come and beat them. I think the Pelicans are the play here. Obviously, the Greek Freak is having another MVP type season, but their one weakness is sometimes they get into these high-scoring games. I think they'll win this game, but I just don't know if they can cover because they don't play a whole lot of defense at times. I think the Pelicans will score enough. I think this total 245 is actually, I think it's low. I think this was going to go over. I could see this game going in the mid-250s. So my better play is on the Pelicans, but I wouldn't talk anybody off of the over in this one.
Love the Bucks, though. Big Bucks fan.
I like the way they play. I just think 6 points on the road is a lot.
It's a lot against the Pelicans. Pelicans' record recently, we talked about it.
Yeah.
But that's still a decent team. All right, last game. San Antonio Spurs against the Lakers. Of course, I love the Lakers. Been my team since I used to live in L.A., although struggling a little bit of late. But the Spurs, 22-26. They're 21-1 against the spread. They're 5-5 in the last 10. They're on a 2-game winner, beating the Hornets by 24 points in the last outing. They're 8-14 straight up, though, on the road. That's 12-9-1 against the spread as well. They've gone over in 14 out of the last 22 on the road. And for the Lakers, 37-11, 25-22-1 against the spread. But they're only 4-6 in the last 10, Craig. They've been on a slide recently. They're 16-6 straight up at home, 11-10-1 against the spread at home, 7-3 against the spread against the Spurs. Big home favorites, though. 11.5 points here, 229.
Well, Spurs are on a back-to-back. They played Clippers on Monday night, so at least they don't have to travel. They're, both in the Staples Center, of course. But you have a Spurs team that, at times, plays no defense, which is surprising when you have such a defensive-minded coach in the past. Coach Popovich, of course, is known for his great defense, but recently his teams have played a more up-tempo, shot a lot more threes, kind of adapted to the new NBA. I think you picked the over here. I think 229 is low.
That's what I thought it looked like.
I think
to me,
the one worry is obviously you need to check before game time which Spurs, because especially Popovich at times rests his starters in a back-to-back situation, so that could be the case here. But I think LeBron and company, they haven't been playing great. And I think the Kobe, untimely death and distraction really affected this Lakers team, which I think everybody can expect that.
Yep.
But I think they got right. They went on the road, which was a nice, they lost the tribute game, went on the road, demolished the Kings by 16. Now they're coming back home. I think they can focus on, and I think this will be the game. They win. I think they'll win in that 9 to 10 point range, but I think the much safer play is just play this over.
I
think this one goes.
The total looked really did look
way over. Like I said, check for who's starting, because if the Spurs set 4 out of the 5 starters or something like that, this guy's getting injured tonight. But if no one's injured for the Spurs and everybody's playing, way over tonight.
All right, that's going to wrap up our NBA Tuesday for you. We've still got a couple of minutes left, about a minute and a half. Craig, what do we got up on the site? And are we going to be doing any XFL coverage?
Well, we're going to cover the XFL on the show here. We'll probably maybe dabble in it. Maybe not the first week, because so much is going to come out the first week. It is to give out betting picks on the XFL, or even to suggest that you should bet it. It would be ludicrous. I think you need to give it a week, but probably next week, towards the end of the week, we'll cover the XFL, which would be about 4 games every week. Maybe we won't cover all 4, but at the site right now, of course, we're in the transition mode. 15% off promo code is
Hoop15.
Yeah, Hoop15, HOOP15. So use that to save 15% off on all your daily packages, subscriptions. If you don't plan on doing that, the consensus report, I think it's less than $50 a month. So get in on that. So it's a good value.
Nice. All right, Craig Trapp, thank you so much. And you can find Craig and all of our expert handicappers on the site on picksandparlays.net. Be sure to head over there. And as Craig mentioned, 15% off. Use promo code Hoop15. All right. When we come back after the break, the Duff Man cometh. We're going to speak to Joe Duffy. A little college basketball Tuesday for you. We did the pros. Now we'll do the minor leagues for you. Let's get to it right after the break. Well, welcome back to the show, Picks and Parlays. We're live with you on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. We're live on those three platforms every day, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. And also we stream live video of this show on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So find us there throughout the day. Just search Picks and Parlays or hashtag Parlay Radio. You will find us and you will find me, your host, Nick Geber. Find me on Twitter at Nick Geber, Nickgeber. I love it when people follow me and we have a chin wag about the sports and all the stuff going on. And no, I don't have any incredible insider picks or know of any fixed games. I promise you that. Don't ask, because I just don't have any of that for you. But we can have a lot of good fun and talk about games and betting. And if you want to talk English Premier League soccer, I'm always available, the Champions League or the Euros. If you'd like that stuff, you can catch me every day, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, live on Sirius XM 211, Dan Patrick Sports, with my show, Fifth Street Soccer. Okay, let's get to it, though. No soccer here. We're going to talk college basketball with my good friend and the brother of Sean Duffy, Joe Duffy. Joe, thanks for staying up late in Atlanta.
Yes, like I mentioned, I actually wind up having to get up earlier than usual tomorrow because I have jury duty, and I want to look. It's a big day for both of us. You didn't mention at the top, but it's National Hemp Day, which I know you're happy about, and it's National Soup Day, which makes me quite happy.
Well, today is National Rosa Parks Day, so get on that bus and remember Rosa for all the great things she did. Okay, Joe. College basketball sounds good. Why don't we talk a little college basketball, shall we? Because I know you're just dying to give out some of these free picks. Why don't we start? We talked about the Golden Knights in hockey. Why don't we talk about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights in college basketball as they visit the Terrapins of Maryland, and the Scarlet Knights 16-6, 14-6-1 against the spread. This is the Big Ten, of course. 7-3 in the last 10, coming off a 6-point loss to Michigan. They're 1-4 straight up. 4-1 against the spread on the road, 7-4 in conference. Total has gone under in 8 of the last 11 games, and the Terrapins 17-4, 12-9 against the spread. They're 7-3 in the last 10. Both these teams, by the way, 7-3 in the last 10. But they're on a 4-game winner right now with wins against Iowa, Indy, Northwestern, and Purdue. They're 12-0 straight up at home, perfect record. 8-4 against the spread at home as well, 7-3 in conference. 5-0 against the spread in the last 5. Now, the Terrapins, 7.5-point favorites here, Joe. A total 131.5. But, you know, when you look at these records, okay, the road record for Rutgers isn't great at 1-4. But, you know, their conference records are similar. Their current records in the last 10 are similar. They're both sort of similar, hot and cold. So many similarities in records here. I just think that 7.5 points looks a bit big to me.
Yeah, and also some people consider neutral games to be road games. I'm one of those who I always say that you use the dictionary as a handicapping tool, that a neutral game is just that. It's neither a home nor road game, but they're actually 1-6 away from the state of New Jersey. And we talked about it before. I'm not a huge splits guy, but when it comes to college basketball, that's the one that I do pay a little bit more attention to. But like you said, it is accounted for in the line. We do have two moderately evenly matched teams. Like we said, it's hard to believe all the years I've been in the business. Now I get to talk about Rutgers being a very good basketball team. I think they're dangerous as an underdog. I like to use that term, predictably unpredictable. They have arguably one of the most erratic star players in the country, Ron Harper Jr. He's capable.
Did you say erratic or erotic?
No, that was we'll talk about the halftime show maybe before before this is out. No, erratic, but you know, who knows? We'll ask his girlfriend. Maybe he is erotic as well. But I know that he's definitely erratic. He can take over a game, and as an underdog, I like a player like that. You know, usually if he's laying a big number, you might want to bet on him having a bad game, because he is, like I like to say, predictably unpredictable. But I always like teams with big men. I think Rutgers maybe in the tournament could be a dark horse. We're looking a little bit ahead, but I find the teams that have good big men are the teams that can be competitive against quality teams. 6'11" Miles Johnson, good player, averages 9 points per game. But in both cases, the defenses match up better against the offenses, although it's a fairly low total. But I think a lot of sharps will be taking a long look at the under. I do have three independent computer programs. They're totally independent of each other, and they look at it a little bit differently. Like one of them weighs recent games more heavily. The first two, they both like to use the points per 100 possessions, but one of them likes to adjust it based on the quality of opponent. They call it how they would perform against average opponents. So they balance each other out, the three of them. And all three, of course, do have Maryland winning, but 65-60, 69-61, and 68-59. So kind of split there on who covers. They're all kind of right around the spread. I think two barely have Maryland cover. One would have Rutgers covering. But like I said, because I do think that these teams, I agree with you, they're closer to being evenly matched, and I think we can overanalyze splits. I'm going to go with the points here and Rutgers.
All right, nice. Let's move along. Next up, in the ACC, Duke Blue Devils against the Boston College Eagles. The Blue Devils 18-3, 12-9 against the spread. They're 8-2 in the last 10 on the 3-game winner, 5-1 straight up, 4-2 against the spread on the road, 8-2 in conference. Good record there. Total's gone over in all 6 of their last games. And the Eagles 11-11, 10-12 against the spread. They're 4-6 in the last 10, coming off a surprise win over UNC, by the way. They were 12-point dogs in that game, and they came back to win it. Then if they came back to win it, they just won it. 7-6 straight up, 5-8 against the spread at home, 5-6 in conference. They've gone over in 5 of the last 7 against the Blue Devils. And the Blue Devils are whopping favorites here, 15.5 points and a total of 144. How do you see this one, Joe?
Yeah, that is a ton of points to be laying on the road. And, of course, not surprisingly, Duke with massive mismatches on both ends of the court. Duke second in offensive efficiency versus the number 120th ranked defense. And BC with the 218th ranked offense versus the number 9 defense. But, that's why they're getting 15.5 points at home. But I think it might be an even bigger mismatch than that. And I always like, my rule is when you look at experience and whatnot, senior-laden teams usually pretty good at the beginning of the year, but there's kind of a point of diminishing return, how they can improve. Well, Duke has now become, of course, one of those teams that, as they say, they don't rebuild, they reload. BC, 48% of their scoring is from their seniors. Duke is 65% of their scoring is from their freshmen. So what that tells me is, look, Duke is a team that is going up. Boston College kind of reached a point of diminishing return. As much as I don't like laying big number on the road, and quite frankly, it's probably not going to be a premium play, it is that much of a mismatch. Plus, we're talking about February, more towards the end of the year, where Duke, I think, is just going to keep peaking, and Boston College just the opposite. So I will lay the big lumber on the road, even though it's against my nature to do it. I think it's a good spot here.
I think that's a good call, too. I mean, the Eagles, their record's not that great, and they are, other than that win at UNC, they're only 4-6 in the last 10. So, all right, let's move along. The Nittany Lions of Penn State against the Spartans, the real Spartans. These ones at Michigan State. The Nittany Lions, 16-5, 12-8-1 against the spread. They're 7-3 of the last 10. They're on a 4-game winner right now with wins at Nebraska, Indy, Michigan, Ohio State. They're 3-3 straight up and against the spread on the road, 6-4 in conference. The Spartans are 7-3 in the last 10 as well, coming off an upset loss, though, to Wisconsin. They're 10-1 straight up at home, 9-2 against the spread at home, 8-3 in conference. They are 9-1 straight up head-to-head versus the Nittany Lions. And
my son will tell you okay.
And they got under in 5 of the last 7. Michigan State, 8.5-point home favorites, Joe. Total 143. I want to hear what your son would say.
Yeah, he would say the real Spartans are North Springs High School in Sandy Springs, Georgia. But, Michigan State, this is possibly
not the Gwinnett Bulldogs?
No, not the Gwinnett. I used to live in Gwinnett. So that's very good knowledge of where I live. I lived in Gwinnett many, many years ago. My first house was in Gwinnett, but I don't think there's a high school. There's North Gwinnett. I don't think there's a high school actually called Gwinnett, but, good comeback anyway. Michigan State, they're sloppy. They're sloppy with the ball. They're facing a Penn State team very good in forcing turnovers, the top defense in the conference in forcing turnovers. So, look for some pressing here. Look for some aggressive defense. I think Penn State knows for them to win, they're going to have to force turnovers here, and they do match up pretty well. Now, on one hand, Michigan State, they're actually off of a bad game offensively, and we're only Cassius Winston, perhaps the best player in the country, and Rocket Watts. They were the only two guys that scored in double figures, but I do look for Michigan State to bounce back. I don't think they're going to have back-to-back bad defensive games. Still, the three computer simulations that I use, Michigan State wins all of them, 76-68, 76-69, and 75-69. But I just think Penn State matches up well enough, competitive enough. They're good enough on defense to keep this game close. So I will take the points on the road.
All right, one more game, just about 3.5 minutes left. Mississippi State Bulldogs against the Kentucky Wildcats. This is an SEC matchup. The Bulldogs 6-4 in the last 10, coming off 86-73 win over Tennessee. The Kentucky Wildcats are 8-2 in the last 10. Their last outing was a 9-point loss, though, to Auburn. But the Wildcats are 12-1 straight up at home, and the Bulldogs are 1-2 straight up on the road. Ashton Hagans is not expected to play for the Wildcats, but they are still 5-point home favorites, total 139.
Mississippi State, 6 straight losses to ranked foes. UK freshmen, they do account for 54% of their points, but like you said, Hagans, he is questionable. You say he's definitely not going to play. We will see, but yeah, if he's not playing, that is.
I said he's not expected to play.
Not expected to play. Okay. Well, he's a big part of their offense, so that is a very significant injury, and no question Sharps will be keeping an eye on that throughout the day. He scored or assisted on 45% of their points in the last 5 games, so no small injury to say the least. Kentucky has won its last 11 home games, though, by an average of 77.2 points per game, by giving up 62.9. Mississippi State, they do have a chance. They're very good on the offensive boards, tops in the nation in getting offensive rebounds. But the fact they've kind of been a Peter Principle team, they've struggled against the best teams. I do like Kentucky here, but if Hagans isn't going to play, maybe wait till closer to game time because the line will drop a little bit. But Kentucky, I do think, is the play.
Kentucky is the play, so take the -5 for Kentucky.
-5, but if your injury report on Hagans is accurate, you probably by game time you can lay 3.5 maybe.
Well, Mr. Duffy, we have a minute and a half left, and we've run through all the games. So very quickly, how did you do on the Super Bowl?
No, yeah, you sure we got a minute and a half left? Yeah, I've had better Super Bowls, but a nice season overall. I did go 0-2, and even my prop bets weren't all that great. Watkins did have more than 3.5 reception, but yeah, the Super Bowl was definitely not one that I'll be talking about all that much. But hey, we're sizzling hot in the NBA, especially. So make sure you get down on my NBA picks, hitting at about, I think it's like 75% over the last 10 days or so. So my systems are doing
I've been looking, Joe.
well.
You are super hot in NBA right now. Joe Duffy, you can find him on our website. As he said, he's super hot, about 75% in NBA right now. Find Joe Duffy there. Expert picks on sale because we're feeling super generous. And I had the boss here and I talked him into it. 15% off. Use promo code Hoop15. Joe, always a pleasure. We'll chat to you later on in the week. All right, that's going to wrap up the show. We're going to come right back after the break. And if you missed any of the free picks, don't worry about it because I'm going to recap them all for you so that you can write them down and do really well with your sports betting because that's sort of the way it works. But don't do that if you're driving. If you're driving and you're listening and you're saying, oh, I missed it. Don't worry. The podcast is up for you immediately following the show. You can even either find it on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or just go to the Believe, B-L-E-A-V, podcast network. You can see our podcast right there as well as on our website. All right, I'll be right back. Welcome back, Picks and Parlays, Sports Byline Broadcast Network, where you want to be with us every day, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, the affiliate stations of the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. We're live on radio, on iHeartRadio. We're live on TuneIn Radio. And we're also live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We're everywhere you want to be, let's face it. And we'd love to hear from you. Just hashtag Parlay Radio or search Picks and Parlays. You will find us. We did give a lot of picks out today. Let's start, though, with Craig Trapp. We talked some NBA. Let's go straight to Craig's picks and recap them for you. Here they are. Maybe. Coming up. There they are. All right, let's start with our NBA picks from Craig. Bucks at Pelicans. Take the Bucks -6. Hornets at Rockets. Take the Rockets +14. And the Blazers at the New Jay. Take the Blazers +5.5. Spurs at Lakers. Take the Lakers -11.5. And then wait a minute. We did some college basketball as well. Joe, the Duff Man Duffy, was here. Duke at Boston College. Take Duke -15.5. And Rutgers at Maryland. Take Rutgers +7.5. The Nittany Lions at the Michigan State Spartans. Take the Nittany Lions of Penn State at +8.5. And Mississippi at Kentucky. Take Kentucky -5 and have some bourbon with it, because that's what you're supposed to do, I think. Those were our picks that we gave out on the show. And if you missed any of the picks or any of the show, as I mentioned, you can always find it afterwards. If you'd like to talk to me, I'm always up for it. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Geber, Nickgeber. And if you'd like to go to our website and buy some of those expert picks, we have a special offer for you. Hoop 15. Hoop 15 will get you, that's right, 15% off everything you might wish to buy at the Picks and Parlays website, picksandparlays.net. Head over there right now. Get your best bets. Get your information in line. And look, when you go to bet on sports, you want to have an advantage over everybody else, right? Because you're not a punter. You're not a lemming. Go where the sharp money goes. Picksandparlays.net. Get our picks, as I said, expert picks. Hoop 15, 15% off. All right, this is going to wrap up the show for me tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Be sure to tune in then. In the meantime, have a great night. Bet smart and bet, win, repeat.